In today's video, we're going to be building for 24 hours. Not in a row. No, I'm sorry. Last time we did that, I fell asleep, as you can see here. That was unfortunate. But nonetheless, this video has taken a long time to make, like literally 24 hours of solid building, plus more time editing, plus more time filming the time lapses. Oh my gosh, I'm so dedicated. You have to subscribe now. It's not even an option. I'm sorry. You just have to. If you're watching this, you have to. No, seriously, please. Anyway, I'll shut up now, as this is a reasonably long video with lots of building, and I'm sure you want to see the building. Shall I start the building? Okay, I'll start the building. I'll start the building right now after I've said building one more time. Building. There we go. So first things first, I had to find a decent desert biome, so I just made some random seeds, and I just got looking. And what I was looking at was ugly holes, whatever this water generation is, whatever the heck this is, or this. But about 10 worlds later, I found this. It could use some work, but we got those lovely mountains in the background. We got a lot of flat space. It's not too flat though. So I decided to keep it, and we got doing some planning using some wool blocks, a bit of world edit to delete some mountains, to create some space, and also some magenta wool to make some pathways that I'm going to use. And at the moment, it's looking like a load of random lines, squares, and circles, but you will see it transform later. And speaking of transforming, there's no time like the present. And in fact, how about we switch this up and add some shaders to the game? Make this look a little bit nicer, shall we? Yeah, there we go. And with that, we can finally get building, and we're going to start off by building this long oblong thing here, and this is going to be a grand bridge. This bridge is going to go over the city, and it's going to be where all the sort of rich people go, all right? They're going to be looking down on you like they look down on you in real life. And by the way, I went into this build with no plans for colors or anything like that. I just knew I wanted to build a desert city, and you can kind of see the color palette come to life here. We got some mangrove wood, we got a lot of oranges and yellows, plus some greens thrown in as well. And I think this bridge is looking rather good. I was so proud I did a little run across it, and you can see how big this thing is. It's pretty big. It's a pretty big bridge. And we're only just over an hour in, and we decided to work on something else after this. At the bottom of the bridge, we did some terraforming, as it was a bit of a floating mess there. And after that terraforming, I got working on one of the squares here, the one on the right. And this here is a sort of like weird palace sort of get-together place, I decided. And you can see me completely change up the design of it halfway through. I spent like 30 minutes or so doing basically nothing as I restarted it completely and went with this design in the end, which I think looks a lot better than those big colourful roofs I was going for before. Reminds me too much of Empire Season 1, and we didn't want to go down that route. We wanted something slightly different, alright? And one block I used a lot of in this whole video is the honeycomb block. I think it just looks amazing, and I've just started using it in everything. It goes really well with mangrove and acacia. And also raw gold blocks, which I used a lot of. But anyway, enough with the fun building of cool funky palaces for now. We're going to move on to creating paths, and oh my gosh, this stuff is tedious, but it looks really cool in the end, and it really helps link the city together. And I used a load of different types of paths, not just the same throughout, because I thought it would look a bit weird if it was all just the same path throughout, and this way we can have some more funky designs. And it also brings us on to our next building here, which, as you can see, is just sort of like a square. It's not a very big building. I just wanted to build something after doing all the pathways, but it also got me sort of ready for the sort of style we're going to be going for the smaller buildings in this area. Speaking of which, we headed over a bit further away and built a sand platform here. This is where we're going to be just building some houses that we can copy and paste around with world edit. And you'll see we have a couple of different styles. We'll start out with two designs. This one here, which has got a kind of colourful roof on it and is very bright and vibrant, and then another one as well, which is a bit simpler. It doesn't really have a roof, it's got more of a roof garden. And with these two builds, I started to flesh out the city area, placing them down randomly in different spots and then linking them up with pathways. You can see here, we've changed the color of the roofs as well, just to give a bit of difference in the shape and make the buildings look like they are different and not just copy and pasted. And also on these buildings I placed first, I did a lot of work sort of linking them up, placing a lot of detail around there as well on the street, adding in some different blocks and like a fountain and, you know, some leaves and some hanging stuff as well, just to try and make it look more dense, which you'll see I don't keep up later on as it got a bit out of control. But we're now a quarter of the way through, so I decided to build a bigger building, and that is this battle arena here. And you'll see again, I went through a different style where I made this weird roof thing on the top here, and I decided that looked ugly. I tried another thing, also looked ugly, and eventually I just left it like this because I think this just looks cleaner and the best. I also worked on the actual arena itself, added some seating in, made it look all fancy, and there you go. a nice sort of battle arena with also some pathway around the edges. And you can see from the top-down view here, it's starting to all come together. And I didn't want to make just a flat desert city. I wanted this thing to have like levels, and I think that's what we've really got going at the moment. You've got the bridge in the background, you've got the Colosseum thing, and you've also got all the roofs of the houses. I wanted to link this arena up to the rest of the stuff we built, so I started planning out what we were going to do here, and I made a few more buildings to link it up. I also put some nature in the middle of it as well, because you always need a bit of nature, don't you? And this building here acts as a sort of staircase up to the arena. I decided just, why not? I thought I'd make it look pretty rather than just having some stairs, and it also adds the more of the levels thing I was talking about. This is now the highest building in the city itself, and for some places you couldn't just copy and paste the other houses around, so you had to make custom little buildings like this one here to bring things together. On hour 8, we moved on to the other side of the city, where this bit was a bit more like hilly and mountainous, and we had to create like different levels, and I decided to use walls to do this. Rather than have the houses sort of sporadically placed like they were on the left hand side, this side everything's on the same level. We've just got 3 separate levels. So I did not only 1 but 2 walls here. As you can see, we've got one going all the way up to the river front, plus a little bridge linking it to the other side as well, just to add a little bit of detail to it. And then leveled off the floor with this brick here and started adding in some of the cookie cutter houses I had made before. But these houses, they weren't cookie cutter enough. They were a bit of a struggle to place down, so I decided to make some really square, like really easy to like manipulate houses here. We've got one which is quite small with a little roof garden on the top, and then we built a second one as well, which is slightly higher and has a slightly different roof, although very similar to the other one we built. And then once we built these, we could start placing them in different positions, and we could make quite a lot of variety from these houses here. Obviously, they're all going to look similar, but they also all look kind of different at the same time, which is really what I was trying to go for. I was also pasting them in at different heights, and then, you know, just adding bits to them underneath as well to make them look a bit different. I also added another level on top here where we've got some sort of more greenery and different houses and a pathway up to it. Finally, added in some details, some like hanging lights and some hanging banners. But I'm sick of building that city. We're going to move over to the side of the desert here, where we're going to get building some pyramids. I've always wanted to like try build some custom pyramids, so I went for 2 different sizes here. We got the one on the left, which is a bit smaller, and the one on the right, which is a bit bigger, and we've got 2 different designs. This one's sort of got the pillars on the edges, whereas this one here is a bit more like detailed at the top of the pyramid, and also is bigger, so it has more gold and more color on it as well. The thing I love about building pyramids is you can just build them symmetrical and they look awesome. I also linked them up with some like pathway, which looks really old and like rubbly, and I also did some terraforming as well and added in some cacti and also some mountains. I guess this is the kind of like the old town part of the city, and it looks completely different to the city itself. But we've done all the houses where the regular people live. I wanted to build something that was where the rich people would go, and I used some colorful flooring, a lot of greenery, because obviously we're in the desert. It's going to have to be like a rich area to have all this greenery, as we're obviously going to have to get the water from somewhere, despite us living on a river. And I also added in this temple here. This temple is not a huge temple, but it is a sort of like religious temple in my mind, where people come to do some praying and all the stuff religious people do. I don't know, I'm not very religious. But I also added fire, because fire is cool. And I added this tower here because, you know, like I was saying earlier, I wanted this to have like levels. I wanted it not just be one flat city. I wanted to have all these different peaks and heights and just look different no matter what part of the skyline you look at. And that's why right at the front of the city, we changed it up by adding a sort of like shipping slash dock area. We used a different floor for this, as the rest of the city we've been using a lot of bricks and terracotta, whereas for this I went for a deeper red in the mangrove wood. And I also extended it out onto the water and started adding on some places for ships to come and dock when they sailed into the bay. There's also some buildings here that look completely different to the buildings we built so far, which are very colorful. These ones are a bit plainer because they serve a purpose and are not just for luxury. I also added in some exotic resources that have maybe been brought in, plus a little market area as well where people can come and shop. And things are really starting to come together now. We've got that background that I'm looking for. We've got the seafront, we've got the riverfront, we've got a little bit of beach as well. It's all coming together. And speaking of coming together, we've made a very dense population area under the bridge here. All these buildings are custom. I didn't copy and paste any of the ones from before, and I just built them all separately. And I wanted it to look like a load of different layers, as you can see here, which is why I started out by building the boxes first and then adding the detail on afterwards. We added a lot of greenery into here, some farming on the rooftops. And I see this as a sort of poorer area of the city as it's so densely populated, and that architecture is a bit more simpler than the sort of colourful buildings we've got elsewhere. But it's like a buzzing area. There's always lots of people here. It's a great community and everyone is enjoying themselves nonetheless. And here are some like shots, me just walking through the city level. It's so dense. There's pathways weaving everywhere and there's loads of different levels. Love it. However, this area on the other side is not looking great because we've got that floating palace there, and we've also just got like random levels going everywhere, and it just doesn't look good. So I decided to finish off the palace here by adding on some greenery on the outside and a little walkway around the edge of the palace. And at the front here, I didn't really know what to do, so I put some fountains, I put a little park, and I also put a beach with some umbrellas and stuff. But we need to link this city up to the other side of the river, so I did that via a bridge here. This is the main and only bridge into the city. Not that I was planning to add others, but ran out of time. Surprisingly, 24 hours, it goes very quickly when you're building a massive city like this. Who'd have thought? Who'd have thought? But after building the bridge, I got working on a pathway up to the top here as well, where we've just got the purple square, which you'll see what it is later. And I also added in some more layers for some more houses to go as well, which I started placing in on the 18-hour mark, which is 3/4 of the way through this build. Once again, placing in all the different houses we designed before, changing the colors of the roofs, adding in some cool stuff, making it look like a dense populated city. I also added some greenery on the outside here on this sort of walkway because I thought it would be a nice thing to have. But now it's time for the biggest build, the main building in this city, and that is of course the royal palace we have here. We've got some colorful floorways, we got lots of greenery, and I had to cut out a big chunk of land to do this, so as you can see we're doing some terraforming as well to make it look a bit more uniformed. As for the palace itself, it's going to be very symmetrical like the other buildings we've built in this city so far. I really love this sort of tower design that I've built for this. It took me a while to get there, but finally we got these sort of pointed towers here. And we've got 12 in total of the side towers and one big middle tower as well. We use lots of colors in this build with all the different colored floorings, mixing up the colors of the blues, the reds, the greens, the oranges, the yellows, trying to get it all in this one magnificent palace. And this took quite a long time to build, as you can see by the hours ticking by up there. Nearly 3 hours, I think it was, for this palace itself. I also linked it up to the bridge, which was of course the first thing we built, and we built a little tunnel underground as well. And you can see here, when you're coming in over the entrance bridge, what a view you have all the way up to the magnificent palace right at the top. I'm really happy with how this thing's turned out. I love building colorful builds like this, but we've still got 2 hours remaining. What are we going to add in those 2 hours? Well, I did actually run out of time, so I decided to focus on the gardens on the back of the city to the palace. When I probably should have been building some more houses for all its citizens, I was working on the palace gardens. I know, the rich get richer. But I am very happy with how these royal gardens turned out. We've got a sort of blossom tree, which was probably imported from a different nation, and we've also got this sort of colorful tree here as well. And we have a fountain, plus loads of like magnificent hedges and like cool flowers around, etc. And it's all very uniformed and it's all looking very nice. But that is the 24 hours done. I wanted to add more, you'll see where in a second, but from the front, this thing is looking magnificent. Look at the size of it. This place is huge. From the docks to the pyramids to the palace to the bridge, everything has come together. It's so colorful, and I really am happy with how it's turned out. We've got the dense area of the city under the bridge here, of course, looking magnificent. We've got the colorful houses, we've got the colorful palaces, temples. Everything is coming together lovely. We're going to head into the world in a second in my first person perspective and get out of this time lapse, and I'll show you how big this thing actually is. But this here is probably one of my favorite views of the city, with the garden in the background of the palace. Wonderful. Look at it. Isn't it magnificent? Look at the size of it. A top-down view? Sure. Here you go. But here we are in game on the bridge, which was the first thing we built. Look at it. Look at it. Don't look at that in the background. Ignore those houses there. But here are the statistics. As you can see, time played 1 day exactly. That's 24 hours, baby. Now, the bits that I sort of didn't get to finish, which I was talking about earlier, was this section over here. It sort of just disappears. I wanted to build something in here, and also round the back here. There's a big gap of stuff I wanted to do. But it's a 24-hour challenge. I didn't want to do 25 and lie to you guys. No, no, no. We're truthful here. But if you head over to where we started, you can see there's a lot of detail in some of these areas like this, in comparison to where we ran out of time. And yeah, there's not much detail around here, unfortunately. However, one of the more detailed parts is this bit here, which I think has turned out lovely. We got steps leading up everywhere. We got colourful floors. It's all looking quite lovely. Like, everywhere you go, there's just like really cool views, I find, especially down at the docks here. Look at that. Look at that. Wonderful. And everything is linked up. Like, from the dock here, you can get all the way through here, where there is, again, not much detail, but it'll lead you to the pyramids area as well. And these pyramids, they look quite small in the time lapse, but they are big build. Look at the size of this thing. It is massive. And the palace as well. There's a reason this thing took 3 hours to build. It is huge. It's a big old palace. And I love the gardens. I'm normally not very good at building in this sort of style of garden, but I think this one has turned out very nicely indeed, especially from up above. Look at it. Look at all those colors. Taking some hints from Good Times with Scar with those there. Although one's died. Oops. But one thing I did do over here was make a top-down map. And as you can see, it's a big boy. Look at that. Got the pyramids over there. We got the Colosseum. The palace from above looks amazing. All those colors. It's wonderful. It's truly my favorite thing of this city. It was the thing I was most excited to build, and I'm really happy with how it's turned out. And people, of course, will want to see it without shaders, and honestly, it may look better without shaders. Like, let me get a good screenshot from back here. Look at that. Holy moly. That's looking amazing. Why did I do it with shaders? It looks better without. There you have it, guys. 24-hour builds. If you want to see me continue this world by doing another 24-hour build elsewhere, let's get this video to a lot of likes. I don't know how many, but if there's a lot, I'll be satisfied. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you did enjoy. Make sure to leave a like and comment. Subscribe if you're new, as this video took a long time to make. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.